All right, guys, I am back. There was no way I was going to miss this card as loaded as it was. This is the Sherdog recap show for UFC Vegas 77, UFC Holm versus Bueno Silva, UFC Bueno Silva versus Holm. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, it's been 3 weeks since we did a recap show together. He has been filling in, taking my chair, doing better than I could do. He, of course, is the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, man? You're on mute. So you're already filling in perfectly for me.
I'm doing great. First of all, a quick shout out to everybody who filled in on either a recap, a preview, or both while you were gone. That would include Lev, Dev, Adam, and last week that I did the recap solo. Everybody who's already popping off in the chat today did a great job of keeping me company, keeping me on my toes. So yeah, like real good times, but it is definitely good to have the original duo back.
Yeah, speaking of duo, how did we not set up a Lev and Dev show?
Oh, well.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I take a little vacation from my other job, and I even end my vacation to fill in just to do a preview show for UFC 290, and I still get crap. But here I am. I would never miss this card. We have 13 fights to talk about. Ben, you said on paper this is one of the worst cards in history. On paper, obviously, on paper is not always how it ends up. A lot of fights that was expected to go one way didn't go that way. But overall, I listened to your preview. I think you did really good on your picks. I don't know what your overall record was, but
I went 11 and 3.
11-3, pretty good.
Mayra Bueno Silva was the only underdog to win all night. We were well on our way to a 100% chalk card. My two upset picks of Deaton and McKinney both did not pan out. I had Holm in the main event. I proved wrong on those three. Aside from that, I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you guys hear my AC? I have my AC right here. If it bothers you guys, let me know.
You're fine.
All right,
you're fine.
It's like 100 degrees here. All right, let's get right into it. In the main event, big, very crucial bantamweight title. I almost said title fight, main event, because the title has been, you're assuming, vacant as long as Amanda Nunes is not coming out of retirement. She announced her retirement, so the bantamweight title and ultimately the featherweight title is both up for grabs. A fight that the winner is probably going to get themselves in the main event. It's next shot at the title. Holm coming in, former champion, big name, probably the biggest name in the division left, takes on kind of an unknown to casuals, I'd say. Not, obviously not to the people who's in the chat at 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, but not the person that I think the UFC was rooting for, even though she's much younger than Holm. But the preacher's daughter does not get the victory as she is submitted in the second round by a modified guillotine. Some called it a ninja choke by Mayra Bueno Silva. That's what I'll say about this fight. It's hard to really analyze what happened because, it was only, very early in the second round. It wasn't too much, not the most exciting fight, exactly kind of what we expect from a Holm fight at this point. But then Bueno Silva just catches her sleeping for a second, snatches on a guillotine, jumps on it real quick, standing guillotine, and that's a wrap. She wins. Tell me what you thought about the overall fight and the performance by Bueno Silva.
Well, obviously a spectacular performance by Mayra Bueno Silva, the most important win of her career, whether it gets her the title shot she asked for or not. It put her in the discussion, which there wasn't much she could have done tonight that would have done so, but a definitive finish over Holm. She did about as much as she possibly could for her case for a title shot. And let's hear it for the value of surprise. I think back to an interview I did with John Fitch back in 2018 or 2019 when he left WSOF, joined Bellator. He was about to fight Paul Daly, and I interviewed Fitch a couple times, and he becomes a pretty easy guy to talk to. And he acknowledged that he had a huge wrestling advantage over Paul Daly. But he said, if I go out there thinking that way, if you go out there predictable, everyone knows what you're going to do. They know the other person's going to have a pretty hard time stopping it. That's when you're going to get taken by surprise. And you're going to, like, some crazy upset is going to happen. I feel as though that's what was going to happen here, because through most of the first round and into the second, I was like, okay, Holly Holm is turning this into a Holly Holm fight. The only note I had after round one was, this looks like a Holly Holm fight, and Bueno Silva is having surprisingly good success with her hands when they are separated. But Holm had been doing a good job of just driving her to the fence and kind of turning it, just turning it into a mashing against the cage. But second round, Bueno Silva gets shoved to the fence, shoves her off, gets just a hair of separation. She knows exactly what Holm's going to do, because Holm has become so predictable, and makes her pay for it. And I'm sure that everyone that Holly Holm has beaten in the last 2.5 years doing exactly that is going, well, shit, I should have, I should have tried for a real deep guillotine, with like the arm grip on the other side, and just choke this woman out. So yeah, here's to not being predictable. Here's to having the presence of mind to make someone pay for being predictable.
It's funny about her catching her is, when I was watching the fight and I was watching what Holly Holm doing, clinching, kneeing, very Kamaru Usman like, I was thinking that is the safest position for Holly Holm. Holly Holm's, best position, if I was ranking them, was, 1 through 5. Worst position would be on bottom with Silva. Next would be the boxing range, would be 4. 3 would probably be on top, because that's a dominant position, but maybe she gets caught. Kicking range would be 2, and then 1, I said, it's the place that she's probably safest. She can lean on her, she can grind on her, she can wear on her. Even at this age, Holly Holm will not get tired. She can slowly win rounds, land some shots when they break, slowly throw some kicks from distance, close the distance again, wear on her, be very Holly Holm-like, things that we've seen her do. She did it to Yana Kunitskaya. She did it to Raquel Pennington. Even though she didn't get the victory, she did it at large portions to Ketlin Vieira. It looked like she was doing to Mayra Bueno Silva. So I was kind of snoozing a little bit. Like, I wasn't really actually sleeping, but my point is, that was not the moment where I'm at the edge of my seat expecting something to happen. I'm looking at the clock. I'm putting the ticker down on this. I'm taking my notes, what we're gonna talk about. And then even when she locked it on, I go, nah, Holly Holm will get out of this. And then for about 4 or 5 seconds later, I'm like, oh shit, she might not get out of it. And then she tapped.
And I mean, for a while, the camera angle was part of the problem, because I couldn't even see if Holm's left arm was in there. Like, I was like, is this arm in? Does she just have the neck? It was pretty good stuff. And no, I was getting lulled to sleep as well. If you're anything like me, I was already kind of thinking forward to what my notes were going to be, talking about Holm winning by decision. Like, that's how absolutely. I felt a few seconds into the second round. And that's why they fight out all 5 rounds. And again, you gotta change it up. Even if you have stylistic advantages, you have to change it up enough that they can't just like stack the line against you.
Yeah, I'll say there's a lot of positives if you're, the UFC with Bueno Silva at this point. One, she's known for her ground game or submission game, but now you got a girl who's winning the boxing exchanges, not the striking exchange. I think that was a little blown out of proportion. I do think Holly Holm was winning the overall striking exchange, but the actual boxing exchange she was winning. She does hit hard. She's recently joined American Top Team, which obviously has a huge success of not only champions, but particularly female champions. I mean, Amanda Nunes had a long run with them. Joanna Jacek had a big run with them. And I'm sure there's other ones I'm not thinking off the top of my head. So it's funny that she was winning the boxing exchange. And this is a note I wrote. When you think about Holly Holm's game, she is a boxing legend. She's a multi-time champion, and I think she won a different weight class. I'm not a boxing person, but she's in the Hall of Fame and this and that. The worst part of Holly Holm's game at this point of her career Probably her boxing.
Yeah.
Like
No, I said that on the preview. I was like, the first time we realized she was something special was when she came out of New Mexico, like head kicking people. But I mean, you could argue for the last 6 or 7 years, her best part of her game has been like her wrestling, her top game, her clinch game. Yeah. And I mean, her kicks are still good, but her boxing has even regressed a little bit. Like her hands have definitely slowed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Absolutely. We'll talk about what's next for Bueno Silva in a second. And then, guys, I think this is going to be a much quicker show than most shows because of as obviously watching fights is what we ultimately want to do and we enjoy, but how a card shapes out on paper gives us more storylines than one that isn't. Even a card that's good on paper but has less action actually still gives us more things to talk about than oh, what a hell of a fight with Evan Elder. Like, okay, yeah, it was a great fight. Holly Holm, she's 41 years old. She turns 42 in October. She didn't take her gloves off, or maybe she's saying something in a press conference. But do you think this is the last we see of Holly Holm?
No, I don't. Holm, I thought she might have been done in like 2018 or so. In 2019, she got divorced and came back to fighting. She just finished the second fight of a 6-fight deal. Given her ex-champ pay scale, if she doesn't fight a couple more times, like she's leaving. I mean, she could leave close to $1 million on the table. I just don't think she does that. Like, why? If you're going into the next phase of your life anyway, and win or lose, you're not getting hurt that bad. Why wouldn't you pick up a couple more checks out the door? I think we see Holly Holm at least 1 or 2 more times.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to address something. You talk about what fights we make with her and this and that. I'm just going to bring this up right now. Later, one foot out the door mentions avenue for potential Ronda Rousey return. I don't know if you saw. There's a lot of going on social media about a Ronda Rousey return. I don't know who started that. I don't know if it just got sprinkled out when Amanda Nunes retired. That's not happening. I know Errol Hawani has already has sources. I know some people that know Ronda Rousey too. Ronda Rousey's not coming back. Would that be the best fight for Ronda Rousey to come back? Absolutely. I don't know if it's the best fight for Ronda, but for the UFC sake, absolutely. It's not happening. Ronda Rousey's never fighting MMA again. Not to mention she's up there in age and been out there for a long. What's it been, like 5 years or something? It's been out there a long time.
It has been. And does the UFC have a weight class that she could compete in right now? Yeah, it was always a bit of a production for her to make 135 pounds. She was the consummate professional, but we're talking about a woman who won Olympic bronze at 154 pounds. Yeah.
John Butterfield, that's actually pretty good. Ronda takes on the winner of Musk and Zyber.
John Butterfield throwing daggers from halfway across the world, and I'm here for it, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously it's easy for me to say, hey, Holly's, don't fight, take all this money. If Holly Holm was paid like basketball players and like football players and top world athletes in their sports, I think it'd be the last person. If she was a top boxer, it'd probably be, and obviously I know she was, but I'm saying a male boxer. If this was, Lennox Lewis or someone like that. And I know me myself as Lennox Lewis, the first box I think of, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, they have the money where they can Tyson Fury can walk away at any time he wants. I think Amanda Nunes leaving helps her stay a little bit longer because, with the top 2 fighters, Bueno Silva and probably Juliana Pena, those are still at this point in her career still winnable fights. Like, even though she just got submitted by Bueno Silva, she was winning up to that point. Again, 5-6 minutes is not much to take away from a fight, but she probably she studied her, she knows what she was doing what she wanted to do. There's definitely an avenue of victory, so I could see that.
Oh, dude. What does the UFC say? Like, what do you say if you're Hunter Campbell or Sean Shelby, if Holly Holm hits your phone tomorrow and says, keep 145 around, I'll fight Dumont for the vacant title?
That, yeah, It's funny you said that because that was where I was going with this. You know, I was kind of setting up that 145 is also the option for her because once she's fought there before, she's been competitive before, she's fought for a title. Yeah, very controversial fight. She went to fought title twice in that weight class, but right, yeah, that's when she got knocked out by Amanda Nunes with a high kick. That was a 145, right? Or was that 135? I know she fought.
That was 145.
That was 145. Yeah, Durandamy was obviously 145 too, but
yeah. No, wait. Her 145 title shot was against Durandamy. Like that was the.
Yeah, the controversial, the punches after the bell and everything. I was just thinking. I remember when she got knocked out by Amanda Nunes, the high kick. I didn't know if that was at 135 or 145 or. It doesn't matter either way. She's had success at 145. She's fought at 145. She's got the frame to fight at 145. Juice actually saying that was 135. Okay, so
yeah, it was 135.
Oh, she fought Cyborg.
Yeah,
I knew she fought twice. It was Cyborg when Cyborg was the champion at 145. So yeah, that was a fight. That was a fight where Cyborg actually beat the brakes off of her, and someone I respect their actual opinion scored the fight for Holly Holm, and I gave him so much shit because, which is really not part of my nature to give people shit when they disagree with me on an opinion. I don't know if I've never been accused that. That is the quick avenue. If she wants to stay at 135, I'm thinking she turns 42 in October. She probably doesn't fight before October. You know, if you normally in a weight class, it's going to take a year or 2 years to kind of turn around after a loss. But being that she's the biggest name in the weight class, it's so shallow. It's like insanely shallow. I mean, obviously 145 is not even a division, but yeah, I think she will stick around. I'd kind of be surprised if she retired because of how close she is. That said, when she was walking away, I just kept thinking, you know, you always kind of think of, I think of Robbie Lawler last week. What is he going to do himself? He wants to continue. He wants to coach. You have guys that, this is the last you see them. They're not going to be around anymore. Obviously, you have some who go the commentary way, whatever. She just seems like she'd be a great coach.
She does. Obviously, she's very well-rounded. She's one of the most well-rounded fighters in the history of the women's divisions, especially the ones that she competes in. She seems to have the temperament for it. She's been a long-time fixture at the same camp, which to me indicates probably a bit of a stable personality. I bet she'd be great at it. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the person that we should be talking about, Bueno Silva, she's. How do you market her?
It's tough, man. She has a pleasant personality. She is like working on her English, but she's not conventional Instagram hot. She is a decent finisher. I mean, her fights are usually pretty interesting, but I don't know, man. Like, I really don't. Like, there's just not a whole lot that jumps out other than, hey, she's real good.
One thing I do like is, after the fight, she was actually very humble and everything. But before the fight, she was talking trash, and nobody talks trash to Holly Holm. How do you go talk trash to Holly Holm? I mean, you have the preacher's daughter. You got the nice one. People making jokes about, people making jokes in the chat, but she's the one who's giving speeches about, protect our children, and she's doing charity stuff, and she's squeaky clean. She's like the oldest Brady Bunch member. Like, she's got the blonde hair that's long, But since Ronda Rousey, nobody talks shit to Holly Holm. It just doesn't seem right, Yeah. So maybe that's it. Like, maybe she can exchange it with Juliana Pena and get into it really good. And I don't know. That's the only thing I'm thinking. I'm not working with much. Like, you're not working with much. Yes, I get that. Like, you just got the coaching job for the Houston Texans. Like, all right, well,
damn.
Like, I'm not. Oh, that's your team. I forgot. I'm sorry. It's your team.
It's bad. All right.
I feel like Bueno Silva gets the title shot, and I'll tell you why. One, she just being the biggest name left in the division. Two, it was also for a main event, and we know how rare it is for female fights to get main events.
Yep.
It's not often, so I feel like you got a little bit of buzz. I mean, they were the talk of the week. She finished the card. The post-fight show. That's who we're talking about leading off. Other show, ESPN and other websites. And shame on all you guys if you go to other recaps than this. That's what they're gonna be talking about.
And I mean, all that. I mean, and that's all kind of the intangibles and accessory stuff. And then the main story is she's won 4 in a row now. Hasn't missed weight for any of them. Nobody else in the division can say that kind of thing right now. So pretty, yeah.
I'm sorry, Ben. I need to pay attention, but Skynet calling Alice the maid from the Brady Bunch of MILF almost made me fall off my chair.
Oh, Alice the maid? Whoa, dude. Get that. Whoa.
Dev said, make sure. I was talking about on other websites, Dev. Dev says head over to his recap as well, at least. I didn't know Dev had a recap.
Well, Dev begins his show with a segment talking about. All right,
I've listened to the show. I'm just kidding. I'm just talking shit. Yeah. Doing my best. Bueno Silva, Holly Holm. I've listened to his show. It's very good. Great addition to the Sherdog Radio Network. So that's what I'm doing. And as annoying as Juliana Pena is, like, she has to be the other side, and she's the A side. Obviously, former champion, former tough winner. Say what you want, but she's done the media thing, so she's her face is out there. I mean, she's an attractive lady. I'm not saying main event. I feel like you squeeze that in as a co-main event on pay-per-view, maybe third from the bottom if you want to really load. Third from the top, excuse me. You really want to load a pay-per-view. Am I wrong, or would you fill somebody else in, or what would you do?
No, I'm definitely. I like Bueno Silva as half of that title fight, and Pena as the only other one than Holm that has held that title. Nobody else, makes sense for the other side of that. So yeah, give me that fight. And for what it's worth, should be a pretty fun fight.
Yeah. As far as Holly Holm, if she really wants to stay at 135, I like the suggestion from Juicex, Misha Tate fight. Makes sense. It's a lot of history. If she does want to go 145, I think that's a fight against. If you're keeping the division, if you're keeping a title, if you think that's relevant, we'll get to that later when we get to Norma Dumont. But to me, if Norma Dumont and her.
Oh. Wait. Run that bone by me again?
I was saying if Holly Holm does want to go 145, I was going you're suggesting, like, if the UFC wants to do a title shot, Holm versus Dumont at 145.
Yeah, like that's if there's gonna be a 145-pound division at the end of this year, and obviously that's an open question for women. Dumont has to be half of that title picture at this point.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way. She has to be half because she's one of 2 ladies in the featherweight division. So Dumont versus Chandler rematch for the title next time.
Oh.
Like I said, it's probably a quicker card. There's not too much to talk about. We'll move on to the co-main event. Co-main event. I originally expected the co-main event to be about 1 minute. And this is a warm-up fight for Jack Della Maddalena. That was not the case at all, as Jack Della Maddalena won a split decision over, and I apologize. This is why I apologize if I say his name wrong. Basil Hafez. Again, I apologize. I'm not trying to diss the guy. I became a fan of him tonight because dude balled out, and I'm going to throw this out to you, Ben, and we'll throw this out in the chat. I saw all kinds of scorecards. I seen a lot of people arguing that Hafez, again, I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong.
That's perfect. You got it. Basil Hafez,
okay. Who did you score the fight for?
I did score it for Jack Della Maddalena. I gave him the second and third rounds. However, it makes perfect sense to me that scorecards will be all over the place because there's a good case to be made for Hafez winning the second round, and there's a decent case to be made for Della Maddalena getting a 10-8 in the third round. So if you had a draw, I'm not mad. If you had a decision for Hafez, I'm not mad. I scored at 29-28 Della Maddalena.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll give you my score in a second. I just want to read some of the chats because there is all over the place. And I agree with you. Like, I'm not mad at people's scorecards. John Butterfield says Hafez won. I'm assuming he's going 29-28. Hafez. Let's see. I saw some other ones out there. Bass goes 29-28. Madalena. Kyle Lohi goes draw. So right there, you got three different people. Sure. 3 different options, and then obviously other people. Nick Rodriguez goes 29-27 Jack, and I'm glad that Nick Rodriguez said that because that's a scorecard I had. Is I went 2 rounds to 1, but I went 10-8 for Jack Della Maddalena.
Okay.
The reason why I scored, and we both scored the second round for Maddalena, was just the damage he did on the feet, which to me was so much more ahead than being held down. I know he had to fight off a submission late in that round, like very, very, very late in the round and everything. But to me, just what he did, regardless, I don't know how to take this fight because this is supposed to be a layup for him. This is supposed to be, it was served up for him. He's hitting home run derby, All-Star week, Major League Baseball, and Dude might have struck out in the All-Star derby.
He might have. The problem for me is Jack Della Maddalena had been preparing to fight somebody like this, a brute who he knew would want to wrestle, grapple from top position, and whose gas tank would be suspect. He knew that he'd have to weather the storm of a determined takedown artist who was probably bigger and stronger than him. And he wasn't fully prepared for it. I do have questions now. I mean, question 1 is, how would he have done against Sean Brady last week?
Yeah, I want to be cautious. So I'm usually the guy who lives the moment. And I absolutely love when Jay Petrie, one of the Sherdog staff members, always, I love when he talks and he goes, I do my best to keep you able to live in the moment. I love when he says that. But I don't want to read too much to either fighter. And I'll tell you why. To me, Hafez, when you look at his record, you go through it, you go to the Fight Finder, he doesn't have that huge win. He's got some losses that aren't UFC caliber losses. I feel like this might be the Lando Venata, Tony Ferguson moment where he had this incredible showing in a big fight where no one expected him to have a prayer, and we might overrank him in the future.
I think that's entirely possible. For one thing, brilliant by him. You got to love a fighter who steps up on short notice and just lets it all hang out. Whether it works out or not, like, Derek Krantz against Vicente Luque. He tried it. He actually put it on Luque for a minute or two. Luque regained his composure and finished the fight. Same with Venata versus Ferguson. But I mean, if Hafez has laid himself a path kind of like Venata, well, put him down for 20 fights in the UFC. That's not too bad. Hafez looks good, and Hafez has looked good in Fury. Like, his last couple fights have been in Fury, which is my hometown promotion. He's beaten some decent guys there. I wouldn't have, just because he is over 30, I wouldn't have put him down for like one of my top 10 Fury prospects that need to be on the Contender Series this year. But he struck me as a guy that could probably beat a few guys in the division. I wouldn't have expected him to look this good against Della Maddalena.
No.
But if he can do that to Della Maddalena on short notice, there are some guys in the division he can beat. And you got to have the thought that several people have put out in the chat. Look at the guy, look at his build. Let's see him after a couple of cycles, through USADA. But he's been fighting in pretty respectable promotions in pretty well-regulated states, and he's been okay so far. So knock on wood. He always looks like this. We'll see how it goes after a fight or two of pre and post testing. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, the real reason why I said I want to read into it, and I talked about why I want to read it half past. The other reason why I don't want to read into it to Madalena, one, he did win, so that's the first thing. But also, and I can't. Somebody put this in the chat. John Butterfield put this in the chat, so that I also wrote down in my notes. Is obviously that Del Madalena did not train for this guy. He could have looked past him a little bit. You're huge, massive favorite. You're supposed to fight, top guy like Sean Brady. You just knocked out Randy Brown, a really good fighter before this. This was supposed to be a softball, but also this is the second time he's had to cut weight in just over 2 weeks. Oh no, wait, no, 1 week.
Yeah, 1 week.
1 week. Yeah, he cut weight twice within 1 week. What did that do to him?
Hanging out on the opposite side of the planet from where he comes from
for an extra week. You're spending another week in a hotel. You're in Vegas, probably his routine and his training and everything changed so much. But the one thing I am concerned, so that gassing a little bit or looking tired, and maybe the big concern I have is the takedown defense. Now they showed a stat that he stuffed or something like 13 out of 16 takedowns, but a lot of those ones that he stuffed was late in the fight when the guy was really gassed and he was just diving in for legs. Early on, he was getting taken down fairly easily. And then not only was he taken down, he didn't get up. He struggled to get up. First round and second round both ended with him unable to get up. What does he do against the strong wrestlers in that division? Your Sean Brady's, your Michael Chiesas, your Colby Covington's, your Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards can wrestle. The top, and obviously I'm talking about guys that he's not close to fighting yet.
Well, but that he would have been close to fighting if he'd won tonight.
If he won over like a Sean Brady.
Well, okay, let's engage in a hypothetical for a sec. Let's say Della Maddalena dusts Hafez tonight. Like, say he fights off 2 takedown attempts, knocks out Hafez in like 2 minutes. Do they even remake the Brady fight, or do they just send Jack Della Maddalena further up the?
He might have. He might have. So in a win, he lost stock. He had everything to lose, and Juice X asked, "Was he exposed?" No, I don't think he was exposed. But there's a concern. If we were re-ranking the prospects right now, he was a lot of people's top choice. Is he the top choice anymore? I don't know.
You would have to be worried. And it was an open question what it would look like when he took on a good explosive wrestler. A few people have made comments about his fight IQ. In fact, Skynet just dropped one again, and I think this is the 3rd time he's mentioned his fight IQ, so I will put up on the screen this time. Persistence will get you somewhere, guys. We didn't know anything about Jack Della Maddalena's fight IQ coming into this fight because nobody had really been able to test his takedown defense. His boxing had been so much better than everybody's that he had 4 first-round finishes coming into this fight. It's fair to ask about his fight IQ now. I was worried just from kind of the look on Della Maddalena's face and some of his body language, if he was getting frustrated in the second half of the fight and maybe letting that affect how he approached the fight.
I agree. I totally, that's a big question. And a lot of it's like he was throwing a lot of big power shots early. He might have was really trying to get that big spectacular. He might have put that pressure on him that he needs. You're a huge favorite. You're supposed to have a spectacular, absolute 10-punch combination to end it. Something that we're all going, oh my gosh. Like he might have been putting that on him. Who knows? There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we don't know. He could have had a tough weight cut, which second time. I know a lot of times when these guys weight cut and then they rehydrate, they really balloon back up, and now he's got to do it again. Like, who knows? But I will say this about Jack Della Maddalena. All the guys in the division, your Ian Gary's, Shavkat Rakhmonov, if you want to throw in Shimaev, Brady's got a loss, but he's still a prospect. Guys like this, where would he be in the betting lines if they fought tonight? I don't know if he's the favorite. I don't know, but he's in the running with these guys there. Like, that's not the case. Like, he's the underdog now. Like
For
you
sure.
book him in Rachmanov. Rachmanov's got to be a 2-1 favorite. I'm not saying he can't win that matchup.
Right.
I just want to make it very clear. I'm just saying, but his stock definitely went down.
Oh, for sure. Like I completely agree. I mean, as it is, I almost feel like I'm talking about Della Maddalena as though I'm trying to paper over a loss or excuse a loss, but he didn't lose. He won. So if this ends up being a wake-up call for him and he ends up learning the lesson he needed to learn,
yeah,
and didn't have Sean Brady across the cage to maybe really teach him that lesson in the form of an L, then he got off pretty well tonight.
yeah.
I'll be very interested to see how he approaches his next fight, whether that is with Brady or with someone else.
Yeah, and we're acting like he got knocked out in a minute. He still won. One thing I really buried the lead. We didn't talk about this. Hafez gave him everything he could, and Hafez took the fight on 5 days' notice himself.
Yep.
What would have happened if he had a full camp? Now again, it's not fair, and I don't know what his training was and that. And to Maddalena in a 2-week period, he's had 3 different opponents.
Yeah.
So like give him a little bit of, cut him some slack in that sense too. So you're the UFC matchmaker. We'll throw this out the chat too. You mentioned Sean Brady as an option in front of it. Is that I mean, that was booked. Are you throwing him right into Sean Brady? Are you going less than that now? Are you going higher because he's got to win? What are you doing?
I like remaking the Brady fight. Like Brady's going to have some he's going to have some shelf time. Like he had bursitis that got septic, so I'm sure he's on a round of antibiotics. That's going to, cost him some training time. But yeah, like make that fight later this year. I still like it. And all of a sudden it's a much more interesting fight.
Yeah, I was never crazy about having the prospects fight each other early, in their career. But when you get booked and you get a little history in there, you kind of have to make it. So, I'm still looking at that range. Like Brady is the guy I wrote down, but if I saw John Butterfield mention Neil Magny, always. I'll tell you right now, Neil Magny is a tough fight for anybody.
Yep.
30 West is putting out Bilal Muhammad. Sorry, I love 30 C West, but that makes no sense. From Muhammad's sense. Luke Wilson mentions Michael Chiesa. Skynet mentions Vicente Luque, who's I know he's booked with RDA. I don't know if he say win or loss, but those guys, I'm cool with that. I wouldn't mind Jack Della Maddalena on that New York card in November. Usually they stack that card up really big.
They do. I mean, a couple people have mentioned Bilal at this point. Here's the problem. For Bilal, it doesn't really help him at all if he beats Jack Della Maddalena at this point, especially after Della Maddalena's wrestling was shown to be such a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Now Bilal goes into that as the favorite. And
just beat Gilbert Burns. It makes no sense for him.
Yeah. And at this point, it's hard to argue that Della Maddalena would have earned that. So, it's tough for me to imagine putting him against Bilal right now.
But, if you want to stack up that New York card and you had, say, Maddalena and Brady opening the pay-per-view, or really stack it and you put them as the, ESPN main event, what do the ESPN prelim main event or something like that, that'd be cool with me. Let's get to the rest of the card. Ottoman Azatar took on Francisco Prado, the 21-year-old Francisco Prado, winning by first round TKO. The kid looked good. Kid looked serious. Kid looked good. He looked technical. He was technical on the feet, but also flashy. So he was feinting and being accurate, quick, beating him to the punch. But then he drops him with a spinning elbow. And then his ground and pound was really incredible, really mean. First, 2 questions. One, what did you think of the stoppage? Because I know some controversy on the stoppage. I don't think it was a bad stoppage. I thought the stoppage was fine, but give me your thoughts. And just overall, what do you think of his performance? And what do you think about him moving forward?
Okay. Well, a couple questions there. First question, the stoppage, I would have been fine with a couple more blows landing. I'm not too upset about it because I don't think Azatar was going to come back and win that or even probably make it to the end of the round. But it is a bad look when you dive in just a split second after the bottom fighter has basically like kicked the top fighter off of him. That's a tough look, but I'm not mad at the stoppage. To talk about Nolan King's, like, it was Nolan King that had the pendulum, right?
Yeah, but at this point, I've used him more than him, so I've kind of stolen it.
All right. Well, on the Keith Shillan pendulum, it was definitely on the early side. I could have stood a couple more blows. I mean, if was it it was Keith Peterson, I think. If Peterson doesn't dive in there, I think Prado shoves Azatar back down, elbows in the head twice more, and Azatar is dreaming of like French fries being snuck into his hotel room.
I don't think it was Keith Peterson. I think it was the old guy.
Chris Tognoni.
Chris Tognoni, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe he was dreaming of like Keebler elves making him cookies. I like Prado. The move in camp, probably a good idea. He came up through Paranav Alitudo, and there's nothing at all wrong with that camp, but there's something to be said for matching up fighters with camps that work well for them. Like PRVT is best known right now for having a bunch of women who have the same ballpark approach to fighting. To be a big 155-pound guy there, kind of sticks out. It's kind of like when Tony Ferguson trained at Team Death Clutch with Lesnar and Tuck and Pat Barry. Like, what are you? You're gonna die in that training room.
Yeah.
Or so anytime.
I'm sorry. I missed it. Who's Prado training with now?
He moved to the Goat Shed. It's a Midwestern camp that has a lot of South American fighters at it right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And they've got a number kind of coming up through the UFC. They may be a camp that we're talking about as a breakout camp within the next year or so. But it seems to be working because at age 21, as you point out on our previews all the time, he's at an age where fighters can and hopefully should be making huge strides from one fight to the next. And here, he just looked more composed. You said he was technical yet flashy. I agree. And that all came from being composed. Like even the spinning back elbow that he used to put down Azatar was one he had tried before. And even though it didn't work before, he saw something there. Like something about the range of rhythm made him think that wasn't, he didn't need to abandon that technique entirely. I have to say that this fight is probably also a bit of a referendum on Ottman Azatar. Like coming to the UFC and even through obviously his first fight or two, Azatar, it was hard to put your finger on how his game plan worked because in Brave CF, he was just a short, compact lightweight with a lot of power in his overhands, but no more so than other guys. Like he didn't look like Michael Chandler or Josh Koscheck that way. And he was smaller than a lot of guys that, kind of put that same skill set to work, but it just seemed to work. And early in his UFC run, it seemed to keep working. And I'm like, how is this continuing to work? Well, here it didn't. And it makes me think that it may not anymore. It may have been a little smoke and mirrors, low-level opponents. He's getting older.
Yeah, one other thing I'll mention, and I never do this. Let's not forget he's 0-2 since the whole can't eat the potatoes in the hotel situation anymore. The magical potatoes. So something might be there too. But yeah, Prado, 21, you got to like that, getting wins in the UFC. I love that. A fight that I was excited about, like I said, the card is not the best on paper, but one of the fights that I said, well, the guy who wins this one will move forward in the division that's kind of wide open right now, as Albert Duraev took on Jung Young Park. Jung Young Park winning by second round TKO. Jung Young Park is one of our guys. Like, just fights the way that, I shouldn't talk for you, but the way I love.
Dude, Jung Young Park is awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if you're frozen for a second. I don't know if that's just on my computer or everybody's, but I can hear your voice, but your video was frozen, still frozen. But again, it might be just on my side. I love everything this guy does. He's I lost Ben, so he'll probably jump on in a second. Unfortunately, I can. There you go. Yep. I just like everything about this guy. He's well-rounded. He's very intelligent. He puts him in the best avenue of victory. What he was doing tonight, he knew Duraev throws hard. He wrestles a lot. It's very tiring, taxing style. So he just kind of weathers the storm, just touches, that's beating him with volume, rips the body, and then he folded. The pressure and his mindset just broke Duraev. And I was so impressed by it. So impressed by it.
Absolutely. Bob Chimson, says he's the definition of a jack of all trades. I would say I would agree, but I would say that almost sells him short because he is better at everything than I give him credit for. I'm just always continue to be surprised by how good his wrestling is. Tonight, I was surprised by how well he was doing on the feet. And for a guy that has turned to wrestling as kind of his salvation at the UFC level, I'm surprised at how good his gas tank is. Like, despite the way he approaches these fights, he is the guy that builds. He is the guy that breaks other fighters. Tonight, Duraev was the victim of it. And yeah, just brilliant stuff. Even just the guillotine at the end of the first round. Normally, if you tell me fighter A jumps for a guillotine with like 40 seconds left in a round, I'm like, was this some desperation thing? This is bad. The guy's going to pop his head out, spend the last 30 seconds of the round punching you from top position. You probably gave away the round you were trying to steal. But Park had that. And then at the end of the round, the bell rings. I'm like, did he burn himself out? Nope. Round 2 comes, and he is once again the guy with his foot on the gas. Brilliant stuff from Jin Young Park.
Yeah, absolutely. And the run he's on in that division, his lack of overall athleticism in other divisions would get me really concerned. Featherweight, bantamweight, stuff like that. But middleweight is the one where a guy like, Dricus du Plessis, who's not the greatest athlete, is fighting for the title. And you guys know how big I'm on Izzy. I'm huge on Izzy. I'm an Izzy guy. His style, but I really believe that du Plessis is a serious threat.
Sure.
If he can take him down and get on top, he's got that mean ground and pound. He could look like the Yabahovas. Now, obviously, we're not going to get too far into that. We'll get to that 3-4 months from now. But my point is, like, Jin Young Park is a threat because of his style. It's time for him to get a step up in competition. Like, he's got to fight ranked fighter. He deserves it.
He definitely deserves it. It's a wide open division, and he's now won 4 in a row. The only person who's won more is du Plessis, who is presumably fighting for a title later this year. He has absolutely earned either an actual ranked opponent or an opponent with the kind of name value that will propel him into the discussion of legit title contenders.
Okay. Did you have a name in mind?
I did. I bet you're going to go higher than me, but I wanted to give him the winner of Paulo Costa versus Ikram Aliskerov.
That's pretty high, especially Costa if he wins.
Well, if Costa wins, that's him coming back from not a great, recent run. Costa, that would have back-to-back wins over Ikram Aliskerov and Luke Rockhold. I think Costa's...
But what was the fight before that? That was Izzy, right?
It was Vettori, because he lost 2 in a row.
Vettori. Okay,
and the Vettori one was one where he obviously engaged in
that was the one he did. He's like, oh yeah, the fight's at 205. And like Vettori's
205. I had a red wine hangover. Yeah, just the goofiest stuff ever.
What a gem! No, Paulo Costa is.
Especially if it ends up being Costa, like Costa versus Park. I think the time has come.
Yeah. So I didn't go as high as you. I didn't go as high in the rankings, but I might have went higher in how hard the matchup is.
Okay.
I went with that might not be true because I went with who Bob Chimson went and Muniz, Andre Muniz and Paul Craig, who fights next week. I went with the winner of that.
I don't hate that. When Paul Craig triangles Andre Muniz with 5 seconds left in the fight, and 2 of our guys end up fighting each other, it's going to be a tough preview to do, like Jin Young Park versus Paul Craig.
If Paul Craig submits Andre Muniz, I'm never picking Andre Muniz in another fight again.
I think that if that happens, Paul Craig should get Jacare's arm from Andre Muniz, and it'll be like the new BMF belt, like just the Jacare's arm, like trophy. We'll just go home.
Well, does Brendan Allen have it right now?
Well, that's good. Well, no, because Allen didn't tap him out, did he?
I thought he did.
Oh, then yeah, Alan's got that. Then Alan's got the Jacare's Arm Award. Yeah, never mind. Like, but serious talk. I like that matchup as well. Like, I feel like we're in the same ballpark. That this has become more about what Jun Young Park deserves.
Before that, the fight that may be the highest in the ranking sense, Norma Dumont took on Chelsea Chandler, winning by unanimous decision. Dumont just better than Chandler, just everywhere. I mean, this was an absolute mismatch. I mean, she's faster than her. She's more explosive. She's more technical. She was a better wrestler. The only thing that Chandler was better at is she was bigger, and apparently she can run faster than her.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen that move since Caleb Starnes versus Nate Quarry in like 2009 or whenever that was.
She's a Nate Diaz disciple. She ran like she was getting jumped in Stockton.
You know? It's worth asking. Do they even let her back in the gym after that? That was rough stuff. Here's the problem, and I'm saying this as somebody that is constantly making the case that, hey, the UFC should probably keep 145 around. It's a shame. This division is so bad because the thing is, Chandler came into this on a 5-fight win streak that included, if she had stayed in Invicta, she'd probably be the Invicta 145-pound champ by now. And she's not actually very good at anything. Just the 145-pound division is populated by women whose only real qualification is they can't make 135. It's bad. Yeah, just Chandler's not great. And the one thing that Chandler, the two things that Chandler is pretty good at, like landing single hard punches and top position grappling, she just wasn't going to get the chance to use against Dumont.
No, I mean, Dumont looks really, really, really good. She has, I tweeted this out and I still believe this. I don't know if any fighter has improved from their UFC debut to where they are now than Norma Dumont has. I mean, she got smashed by Megan Anderson. Looked like, oh, wow, she's so bad. She should never fight in the UFC. And now we're talking about her as the top fighter in the division.
The winningest fighter in UFC 145-pound history. Part of that, obviously, is that everyone else in the conversation bounced back and forth between 135 and 145. But
she did. She tried herself, and she looks like trash at 135.
Well, or 141, which is what really happened.
Well, she tried. She cut weight. Unfortunately she has a body for 145. Is yes. All the people in our chat can agree with.
Completely agree there. And no, she has improved so much. And, you put her back in that fight against Anderson now, get rid of the jitters. Maybe she wins that fight. Megan Anderson was such a front runner. If she doesn't blow through Dumont in the first round like she did, if nothing else, Dumont has proven that she's just tough, determined, persistent, and that'll carry you a long way.
Yeah, unfortunately for Megan Anderson, how much retired Megan Anderson hasn't fought forever.
No.
She's got to be like 180 pounds right now.
Oh, at least. I mean, she was close to that in shape during her. She said she walked around at like 176 all the time, even when she was fighting at 145. No, and I mean that's a hypothetical based on the fight that took place like 4 or 5 years ago. But no, Dumont, I would agree. She's one of the most improved fighters in the UFC. And it's not as though she has brought out a whole raft of new techniques. She's the same fighter she was. She's just in better shape. She's more confident. She has a better gas tank. That's pretty much it. She's still the same person who comes out in the Sandow stance, runs you into the fence, takes you down as soon as she can, just good stuff from Norma Dumont. I would not have expected this. Yeah, good stuff.
You mentioned the 145-pound division. If you were running UFC, what would you do? Would you keep it? Because what do you do? If you get rid of it, you got to get rid of Norma Dumont with it.
If you get rid of it, who are you losing? You're losing Norma Dumont. You're losing Chelsea Chandler. You're losing Danielle Wolf.
Yeah, Danielle Wolf. and her tattooed eyebrows.
I guess Eileen Perez can make 135, so you're not losing Eileen Perez. You might lose 4 fighters.
If you kept it, obviously Norma Dumont, and then we already talked about Holly Holm. Would Holly Holm jump the line?
I would think she absolutely would. Holm, former champs always jump the line, let alone when there isn't much of anybody else left, to make an argument.
If Holly Holm announced tonight that she was retiring, does that change your opinion, whether you keep the division or not?
Well, at that point, I'm thinking, what are the consequences to the? I'm trying to think of it from the UFC point of view. What are the consequences? Okay, say Dumont leaves. Does that hurt me? Does she sign with PFL? Does she sign with Bellator? I think Bellator would eat up Dumont, but she's not that big a name that it's going to hurt the UFC that bad. They just hate sharing their toys with anybody. If Holm retires, I could see the UFC shuttering this division.
Yeah, I feel like for just our listeners alone, they have to keep Norma Dumont. And if Holly Holm isn't, like, I would go with Holly Holm. She's the biggest name. The window for her time is very short. I could see Norma Dumont and Holly Holm fighting on the co-main event of when you have a super main event, I kind of always think of it like if you want to put 2 title fights, which is kind of like the going thing now. I kind of think of like seeding, like 1 seed with 8 seed, 4 seed with 5 seed. Like if you have the incredible main event, you can kind of go with the weaker co-main event. So if I could see Dumont and Holly Holm like co-main event on the John Jones Stipe Miocic fight. Like that card doesn't need a co-main event. Like it's good. It's gonna sell. John Jones and Stipe Miocic, that's gonna sell.
Yeah. It's worth mentioning. I'm just put Marcus Mustard's comments up there. It's worth mentioning that the UFC had a whole season of tough of 145-pound women. And literally every single woman that came to the UFC through that season immediately cut to 135.
Yeah.
Against the UFC's explicit wishes. Like the UFC brought in Chasson and Pani Kianzad to be the 145-pound division, and they all said, no, we want to fight at 135, even though at the time it was the same woman at the end of the line in both divisions.
But I feel like you just do it again, and you make it known, like, no, we're not booking you and fight. Like, you write it in the contract.
Yeah,
you're a 145-pound fighter in the UFC. If you do it again, or do like the entire month of contend. They did like do 1 month of contender series at just 145-pound fighters.
Or just trash the division.
Or just trash the division. The one fighter that we didn't mention that I wrote down as a name as if Holly Holm doesn't happen, Norma Dumont gets a title shot. If I have to have someone fit, Josie Nunes is the one. She's 3-0 in the UFC, 3-0 in the division. To me, she's short. She doesn't look like she should be fighting at 145.
She's too short to be allowed to fly alone. She can't put her own stuff into the overhead compartments. Yeah. She's the Ilir Latifi. She's the Chris Barnett of 145.
But I'm giving her the title shot. She deserves it over anybody else.
Wow.
Remember when she fought Bay Malecki?
I sure do.
She was up to like her belly button. and then starched her.
Everything you say just makes me want them to kill this division more.
To me, it's the opposite. Now I want to keep it even more. wait till the next time we're arguing and you're saying bantamweight or lightweight is the best division. I'm gonna bring it 145. You know what I think? If Holly Holm isn't the one, you book like a fight like that, but you don't even the division's so bad, so you don't even put it on the main card. You put it on the prelims. But you don't even put it on the pay-per-view prelims. You put it on like fight night prelims. They're like, all right, now we're going to a title fight. Right after Terrence McKinney versus Nassim Sadikov, we're gonna go to a title fight.
If Dumont hadn't already fought Macy Chasson, that wouldn't be such a bad arrangement. But the problem is,
she's gonna lost to her. She's gonna lost to her. So
she lost to Chasson, and Chasson blew weight. Like the UFC has to be a little nervous about.
Yeah, in fairness, Norma Dumont can't really complain about people missing weight.
Yeah, but Chassel missed 145. I mean, that's
pretty bad.
Anyway.
Probably one of the best fights on paper heading into tonight. Terrence McKinney versus Nassim Sadikov. Sadikov winning by second round submission. I thought we had some pretty fun scrambles. I think Sadikov saw these pretty well rounded. But the one kind of thing that jumped out to me, and a lot of people have already put in the chat, something that I kind of had a feeling about McKinney, but now I think it's back in the old science class, you had to come up with a hypothesis and you had to test it to see if it was true, and you had to have so many samples. To me, there's enough samples now. Pressure folds McKinney. McKinney is a front runner. He's got a little like Phil Baroni in him, where he smashes you in the first minute and a half, but if you make it past that, you can take over. And that's exactly what happened. We'll get to some fence grabbing and some other things in a second, but ignoring that, I'm completely out on McKinney.
Much as I hate to say it, you know me, I tend to be slow to jump off of wagons. I'm with you here, and it's because the book has been an open secret on McKinney for a while now, and he's yet to do anything to change it. I made the comments in the UFC 290, or it was the recap of the Duplessis fight, where, after picking against him yet one more time and being wrong, I was like, okay, he is the best terrible fighter in the UFC. And obviously I meant that as a bit of a joke, but just, he continually finds mystifying ways to beat fighters who are more athletic than him, more skilled than him. He's the best terrible fighter in the UFC. I would have to say that McKinney is the worst good fighter in the UFC. He is faster and more athletic, harder hitting than almost all of his opponents. He has, at least offensively, a deadly ground game, but he just finds ways to lose. And everybody in the chat's been kind of throwing it out there. All the problems. He doesn't respond well to pressure. He doesn't respond well to getting hit. He doesn't seem to know what to do if his 90-second blitz doesn't work. And he's had a number of fights now to work on it. I would disagree with the people who went so far as to say he's not UFC material.
Oh no, he is.
He is manifestly UFC material, but he hasn't shown himself yet to be anything more than the guy who's going to win one, lose one, and pick up a bonus or furnish his opponent with a bonus about every other time out. Glass Cannon says John Butterfield. Completely agree. But keeping in mind that once upon a time we said that about Charles Oliveira, it's not as though there's no hope for McKinney. He's still a young guy, has incredible physical gifts, has very good component skills. He just really needs a reboot. And even after all that, it just may turn out that he's never a guy that fights harder after he gets punched in the face, and we just have to deal with that as a limitation.
Yeah, and I don't want to take away too much from Sadikov. Sadikov's good. That's true too. He got a good win today. He beat a good guy in Terrence McKinney. He had the game plan. He weathered the storm, kept the pressure on, turned it up, and looked great. So I'm interested in Sadikov moving forward, but overall, to me, this was a lot more about McKinney. Before that, kind of your classic wrestler versus grappler, striker versus grappler. Tucker Lutz versus Melsik Bagdasaryan. Bagdasaryan won by unanimous decision. I want to talk about Sadikov and Bagdasaryan together because a lot of people got upset when McKinney was going for a takedown. Sadikov kind of grabbed the fence. It wasn't like egregious, but he kind of had his hand there, I think, one or two times. And a lot of people think the reversal position was because of that. I really don't think that, but I just wanted to at least address it. Bagdasaryan, on the other hand, yeah, this was a very close fight. First of all, how did you score the fight?
I scored this one for Bagdasaryan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same as last two rounds, 29-28. But a lot of people were upset with the refereeing. He grabbed the fence a couple times. He hit a groin strike. He poked him in the eye. I love when he kicked. I think he like threw a punch to the groin, clearly landed, then threw a high kick on the other side immediately after. Like punched him in the dick and then high kicked him.
Hey, you go low, you go high. You set up your.
If you do it immediately, you can get that. Because if you knocked him out with a high kick, who knows? I mean, if a point was taken, we would still have a draw. So I'm assuming you're in that camp, or you thought a point should have been taken.
I think a point could have been taken. I wouldn't have been mad at it. Generally speaking, I am one who advocates for points should be taken sooner, especially for fence grabs, because that's the thing. Unlike a groin punch or an eye poke, a fence grab is always intentional and usually fight altering. Yeah,
absolutely. Because what would have happened if he didn't grab the fence? He would have got taken down, or he wouldn't got up. Besides taking a point and making a draw, maybe he lose that round that he just won.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm that was probably fence grab is probably the worst one to me too. And it doesn't get called enough, and it changes position and it changes the whole fight differently than an eye poke does. And then obviously getting kicked in the dick sucks and all this stuff, but you generally understand. That said, Bagdasaryan is a very, very good striker. Like he's good. He picks up tells. Once he started learning lots of tells, he was beating him to the point of contact. Real good variety. He has, if you look at just the striking, he has top 10, top 15 potential.
I agree.
But,
in terms of potential, he could be featherweight Rafael Fiziev.
Yeah, I agree. But as Bob Jimson says, his defensive wrestling is bad.
I agree. It's bad. But here's the thing, and this isn't something I expected to be saying about Melsik Bagdasaryan tonight, but the amount of humility and adaptability he's shown, the fact that he's already splitting time away from Glendale Fight Club gives me hope for him.
Well, that's always a good idea. You should completely split your time.
Yes, it should be a 100-0 split of anywhere else versus Glendale Fight Club. But especially in the case of Bagdasaryan, where his flaws are known quantities at this point. If he is spending time at AKA, great. Maybe next time he will know what a whizzer is. Like, I assume that you can't work with that many Dagestanis under the tutelage of Daniel Cormier and not know how to use a freaking overhook.
He didn't know what hip ice is. He didn't know how to bury the head. He didn't know basic stuff that I yell at my son. When my son just started wrestling, he's 8 years old, but I'm like, control the head, push the head down. Where his head goes, his whole body's. I'm always screaming that. Where his head goes, the whole body goes. And I'm always screaming, good stance. Get your fucking good stance.
Yeah. So he clearly has a long way to go, but he's showing every indication that he's willing to take those steps. He's not. He hasn't been satisfied in the wake of his successes or his failures, which, that's all you can really ask. Get better. And I am higher on Bagdasaryan than I was at the beginning of the night tonight, even though I think he probably should have gotten a draw against a fighter I expected him to beat outright. So yeah, the outcome of the fight, I expected him to dust Tucker Lutz, and instead he hangs on for a decision that should have been a draw. And nonetheless, I feel better about Bagdasaryan. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, the one thing I will say that I thought this fight, I still thought Lutz had a chance. This fight came down to, there was about 2 minutes left in the third, and Lutz had Bagdasaryan down. He was kind of holding his legs, and it came down to Lutz keeps him down, he wins. If Bagdasaryan gets up, he wins. Lutz didn't have, as one foot out the door said, Coach Keith there. I would have been screaming to grab an elbow and break down one of the legs, stand. It became a dogfight in it. Who wanted it more? And Bagdasaryan, at that point, he struggled to get up the whole fight. He got up, and then he put it on in the last 2 minutes, and he won. And that won him the fight.
Which is impressive because he was going against a guy in Tucker Lutz that Lutz's most standout qualities. The jury is still out on whether Tucker Lutz is UFC material, but what he does have is he's super game and tough. So to outgut him was actually promising from Bagdasaryan. That's
we talk about fighters who are wrestlers and who look like wrestlers who don't. Tucker looks he's the stereotype. He's short, stocky,
he looks
muscle
wrestling.
on muscle, like more square than anything.
I hate to say the state I grew up in, Maryland, is not a wrestling powerhouse. Yeah.
No, it's not. But actually though, they had a surprisingly good season at the University of Maryland this year in NCAA for the brand new return program and everything.
Well, they just picked up some leftovers from Pennsylvania that we were right next door to them. That's probably
Speaking
what it was.
of wrestling, right now, Fargo is the biggest tournament of the year. At least the biggest tournament of the offseason, probably the biggest tournament of the year, going on right now. So if you guys you guys like NCAA wrestling, I know my boy Luke Wilson will be checking it out. I have a couple guys from my gym that my son trains out of that are there. One of the guys has a very good. I don't want to say a very good shot, but he's one of the favorites to win. He won the Greco last year. He placed. I'm not sure what he placed in freestyle. I think he finished like third or fourth or something like that. He's very good. He's already committed to Cornell. Obviously, I'm rooting for him. So go Gabriel, and plus all the other guys. I hope you guys all do well.
And that's how bad we don't want to talk about Estela Nunes.
Estela Nunes taking on, and I'm going to butcher this last name, Ben's future third wife, Victoria Dudakova.
Victoria Dudakova.
How's your Russian, Ben? I think you speak many languages. How's your Russian?
My Russian, I can read it pretty well off a page. Working at Sherdog has definitely made it better. I have 1 year of Russian in college. I wouldn't call myself fluent by any stretch.
Of course you do. I just I'm just trying to say, your future. I'm very unfortunate. I mean, the fight lasted, I don't know how long. It was very short. Dudova shot for a takedown. I love that. It was a low single that she like immediately went to a leg lace. Very freestyle wrestling move. Looked like Yanni out there, or look more like Vito Araujo against Austin DeSanto. I gotta get my NCAA wrestling references. And Nunes posted her arm, and it's one of these freak things that happens. Her arm just exploded. Did you see Dana White's tweet? He already has the X-rays. And
I saw the X-ray.
It's terrible.
It's bad. Somebody in the Sherdog editorial Slack, I want to say it was Rob Sargent, our King of Asia, said he wouldn't be surprised to see Nunes never fight again. I'm with that, man. She probably just finished her first 4-fight deal with the UFC. She went 0-4, and she just got a bad injury.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's just like I have no idea. Like I would know a fracture from a break, from a dislocation. It looked dislocated, but again, I know. Like I'm not even pretend to be smart enough. It was really gross. That happens. MMA happens in wrestling. I remember. I've wrestled a lot. It's a sport I spend more time with. I remember taking I was actually in an MMA gym. I remember shooting and a little different, but I shot in a guy. I took him down, and as we fell to the ground, I kind of posted my hand behind him, and my hand slid, and it was a little. I didn't break my arm. I tore my bicep like right off the bone up to where the bicep rolls up towards like your shoulder. Instantly, shit happens, and that's what's always gonna happen in our sport. It's one of those where I question, why do I like the sport? Because it's gross.
It is gross, bad, and the curse and blessing of the Apex is that you could hear her screaming like a dog that had been run over by a car for like 30 seconds straight.
Yeah. And it's worse when it's, I'm just going to sound sexist. It's worse when it's a woman for some reason. I mean, it's terrible when it happens to anybody, but seeing what is she, a 115-pound woman, it just, that breaks my heart. She's my daughter's size.
Yeah, It's rough, man. Like I feel what you're talking about, even if I recognize that it's a sexist thought and any like female fighter would like laugh at me for feeling that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, yeah, it is a phenomenon that I get. It's 50,000 years of ingrained social evolution.
Due to COVID, I don't think she made herself many fans with her post-fight speech. I'm going to chalk it up for translation. I'm hoping it's for translation. Not everything. When she says, "Who knew I could break someone's arm without even trying?" Like, that's not a good time to say that. Like, I don't think she meant it negatively. At least I hope. I mean, that comes off like a dick.
Yeah, I'm inclined to chalk that up to either translation or just adrenaline in the moment. She is very young. It was her UFC debut.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not Shinya Aoki. Like, only Shinya Aoki like openly celebrates fucking people's limbs up.
Yeah. Oh, Paul Harris. Who's some more Paul Harris, maybe?
Well, he just acts surprised. Like, what?
Oh, I did that again, huh?
No.
No. Frank Mir, too. Frank Mir wants to break your shit.
And he was my first ever favorite fighter. All right. Yeah.
I made Frank Mir cry in an interview. Check it out. Google Frank Mir cries during post-fight interview. Before that, Austin Lingo took on Melke Geisel Costa. I apologize if I know I butchered their first name. Melke is how they like to call him. Melke Costa. Yep. Wow, what a performance by Melke Costa. He looked incredible tonight.
He looked fantastic. The only question is how much of that is Austin Lingo's fault? How much is how good Costa looks? And Costa's hands are no joke.
How about his kicks?
Yeah. His kicks. But see, that's a part of the thing. Like, as the fight wore on, I'm like, how is Lingo still open for that kick? But yeah, Costa, tons of power, looks real smooth on the feet. 145 pounds is a tough division to make a splash, but he's doing all the right things so far.
Yeah, like I feel like, he moves up a little bit to me. Like I feel a little bit better about Costa moving forward, but I also one of those, like, I was never high on Lingo. I think Lingo stayed in the kicking range. To me, is like an all-time head scratcher. Like, you are getting blasted to the body and you're still going to stand like a stationary target, just standing in front of him, kind of lumbering in front of him. Like, crash the pocket, get inside, wrestle, do anything but stay in that range where you can't land a punch back and just get in your stomach blasted. Now, he's insanely tough. I mean, 99% of the roster is fallen. Like, I don't know if heavyweights have taken those kicks from Costa to his gut as many times as Lingo did. Like, dude's freaking tough.
He is tough. He is exactly what you picture when you say high level LFA guy got signed to the UFC. He's going to stick around for 6 or 8 fights. He's never going to hit the rankings, but he's going to be real tough and real game every time out. Lingo is the most LFA guy ever.
Yeah. No, he's super tough. But yeah, Costa looked good, like really good. Really like 10-8 rounds and pillar to post performance. It's very similar. Genaro Valdez took on Elder. Really, I thought this was going to be fight of the night, and we'll get to the awards in a little bit. On the prelims, the fight was incredible. Elder, I was super impressed with him. I like his style. I like his output. I like the variety of his strikes. I was so impressed with his vision, where he was really like seeing his shots so well, picking his shots. He got caught, and he got caught hard by Valdez in the beginning of the second round. But other than that, really just one lane traffic, one-way road coming at him. And Elder was a guy that I liked him last time in his fight when he got caught against Sadikov. He looks even better. He's one of these guys I can put a little star next to him. Yeah, I'm probably picking him in his next fight.
Completely agreed. I picked him in this fight. You gotta love that he's young, athletic, got just a solid build for the division, but not so big that you're just like, is this guy still going to be able to make 155 in 3 years? And really, smart, composed fight. Like the best word I can think of for it is outclassed. He outclassed Valdez because Valdez had weapons. He was a live dog coming into this fight just because he has such good power and the willingness to throw it. Like Valdez might have gone out on his shield, but he wasn't going to lose some crappy decision just because he refused to pull the trigger. But Elder did a good job of blunting his opportunities, like started kicking his legs early, just punishing him for coming in and trying to wing overhands, and showed himself to just be a classier striker. He had a greater diversity of techniques, was really good at managing the range so that Valdez was just never fully comfortable. And yeah, just consummate performance by Evan Elder, getting him back off track. As you kind of alluded to, he was beating Nazim Sadikov until he got caught. And even when he got caught, it's not like he got caught and knocked out. He got cut and just got a horrible cut that he was much more cut than he was rocked. You know, if not for the specific angle that cut him like it did, he survives. Even if he loses that round, he has a win in his UFC debut. So he's a better fighter than that made him look. And here, he looks like somebody that might have top 15 potential going forward. It's a long hill to climb at 155, but
yeah, especially that division.
Yeah.
Yeah. Valdez and Lingo to me is just very similar tonight, where they're just too tough for their own good.
Yeah.
I think both those guys, they had the chances, and rightfully so, kind of took the chances out, but they're just insane toughness kept them in fights that they were clearly outclassed. Probably the most controversial and the closest scorecard was Tyson Nam versus Azat Maksum. Maksum winning a split decision over against really tough Tyson Nam in his UFC debut. I'm gonna ask you how you scored the fight, and I'm gonna ask the chat because I saw a whole bunch of people tweeting out they scored it for Tyson Nam, and I wasn't looking at Twitter in between rounds to kind of see how everyone was scoring it. I just kind of at the end I sent mine in to MMA decisions, and I kind of I just kind of scroll Twitter and see what people are saying. And I was absolutely shocked at the amount of people that scored the fight for Nam. I thought Maxim clearly won. I had him winning all 3 rounds.
I scored it. No, I don't think you're crazy. I didn't score it officially. Like I just, I didn't have to, but I scored it for Maxim. I gave him the first and second rounds. Having said that, I wasn't terribly impressed by his performance, and the second and third rounds, I mean, you can make a case that that Nam won them, especially the third. But no, I scored the first and second rounds for Maxim.
I scored a third. We are definitely looking at this fight differently. I was very impressed with him. To me, you make a UFC debut against a tough veteran like Tyson Nam, who's a good. I thought he looked fast. I liked his variety in his boxing. I think his jab looked crisp. Jab is one of these ones that you don't get enough credit. I think in MMA, I would have liked. I liked that he could wrestle a little bit. The one thing that I would have liked to see more is kicks. I mean, I don't think they were kicked the whole fight. Like that's the one thing, like a little more kicking game out of him. But I was really liked his boxing. As far as I know the third round was one of the rounds a lot of people gave Nam. I didn't think I scored that one for Maxim. I saw him getting beat. I saw Nam get beat up for 4.5 minutes and then kind of throw it on in the last 30 seconds, but he wasn't landing huge shots. And then I see Maxim throw him on his head twice right at the very end of the fight. I was really surprised. I thought it was an easy win for Maxim, but that's again, maybe I should have scored it closer. I should have been watching more. I was doing things, I was taking notes. So I'll admit there may be some things I might have missed. I don't know, but I like him as an addition to the division. I think undefeated. He's young. I just like what the UFC is doing with flyweight. I think they keep bringing in quality fight. I think it's like at one time it was a shallow division that it just becomes every card is like a new flyweight that I'm like, man, this is another good addition. I like him.
I wasn't that high on him coming into this fight. Like I picked him to beat Nam, but I said doing tape study in this guy, I was surprised at how kind of raw and wild he was against some not very good opponents, in and around his home country. And it might be enough to get him past Nam, but it's not going to get him very far in the UFC. But you know what? It got him past Nam. And even if he takes a loss somewhere here early on before he figures out he can't just overwhelm people like he was on the regionals, I at least think he belongs, because Nam is good, despite the fact he's pushing 40, like unheard of, pushing 40 in divisions where guys don't do that at a high level. Yeah, I mean, he's good enough to stick around. Every chance he'll continue to improve. He passes the first test. That's really all you can say.
Yeah, and we'll move on. The only thing I'll say about Nam, a lot of people, you just brought up, a lot of people bring up that he's 39 years old. Yeah, but he's still like a top 20 guys in the world. He just beat like a top 20 guy in the world. Maybe he's 22nd. I don't know. I don't have the whole list ranking guys up. You get my point.
Well, here's the problem. Nam coming into this fight was 3-4 in the UFC, but he was 2-0 at bantamweight, and he was 1-4 at flyweight. He actually had only won once at flyweight in the UFC.
That's fair.
Like if he's going to if Nam is going to stick around, probably his best future is at 135. But no, it was a legit test, and Maxim passed it. That's really all there is for me to say about it.
Yeah, and I'll throw it on the chat. People saying he clearly won the third round. Turn the volume off. Turn the commentators off, and tell me if he won, because he got beat up for 4.5 minutes. Then he got 5 points suplex on his head twice at the end of the night. He lost the third round too. I'm sorry that none of you guys know how to score. I don't care. But Ben went to the school. He went to school, but he failed. He always leaves that part out.
I failed.
Yeah, sorry, I can't. We eventually have to talk about this fight. Carl Deaton III took on Alex Munoz. Munoz won a unanimous decision. The fight really sucked until it didn't. The third round was pretty fun.
Third round was fun. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Munoz, when he threw, he was hurting him. He just refused to throw punches.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when I said a little while ago that, hey, Genaro Valdez, his one thing that he really does well, he has good power for the weight class. And if he was going to lose, at least he wasn't just going to lose a crummy decision where he didn't throw enough, didn't give himself enough chances to put his best qualities into play. Well, yeah, I picked Deaton in what was a pretty substantial upset in this fight, just figuring, you know what, Munoz is coming back from a long time off. Deaton only has to catch him once. Rust goes a long way, and Deaton just didn't give himself a chance to win.
Yeah, well, you know what, though, in fairness, Munoz was giving him every opportunity to win, because Munoz wasn't throwing either. He just, when he did, he was hurting him. Like I couldn't believe a guy who's not known for striking, not known for striking power, was clipping Deaton. Every 3 minutes he actually threw a punch. One thing I think you did really well on when you break down this fight was talking about Munoz's wrestling, that it's overrated. I totally agree. And not necessarily that it's overrated, he just doesn't use it. And
underused for sure. Yeah.
It reminds me of, and I'll date myself again, and I know you'll know this reference, the old George Gurgel days, when he came in, when Rich Franklin was a middleweight champion of the world, and George Gurgel, his number one buddy, his jiu-jitsu coach was coming in, and you're like, oh man, like this is the middleweight champion of the world jiu-jitsu. He must be amazing on the ground. And that's when like jiu-jitsu really mattered back then.
Oh yeah.
And then suddenly he just never went for a takedown, never went for submission, and just wanted to box everybody.
Floor was lava, and he just wanted to get in brawls every single time. Nope. There's a continuum of guys that should grapple and just refuse to do so to their own strategic detriment. On the lame side is Andy Wang. Take him down, Andy. Take him down. On the awesome end is Enson Inoue, and in the middle was George Gurgel. It was sometimes cool, sometimes frustrating, but no, that's perfect example. Underused ground game.
And the first fight of the night, Ashley Evans Smith took on Aileen Perez. Aileen Perez dominated a unanimous decision. Ben, you're really good at the news stories. Has anybody confirmed that Ashley Evans Smith did not steal packages from Aileen Perez's porch? Wasn't
because she beat her like she stole something.
Yeah, like that wasn't Aileen Perez's stuff that she stole, because Perez beat the brakes off her.
That's pretty much it. Evans Smith, I said on the preview, I was surprised to hear that she was coming back at all. I assumed she'd either retired or just quietly been cut or not re-signed, but she came back, and she was about the only person in the division that Perez was going to have this easy a time beating this badly. Perez just, I mean, bullied her around with the takedown game, which makes sense considering that Perez is basically mini Norma Dumont, but also like walloped her on the feet. Just Ashley Evans Smith had nothing to offer here.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that you thought she was trying. I thought the same thing. Like I thought she was retired too. The one thing, like if she decides to retire, like I don't know if she can like work for like a Jiffy Lube or something. Is I don't know if you caught when she checked Aileen versus oil. That's a very wrestling term for you guys who want to look that up. Speaking of wrestling, like Ashley Evans Smith, like she wrestled in high school or something like that. Like
she wrestled in college.
She wrestled in college?
Yeah, she actually wrestled in college.
Okay, has anybody confirmed that college had a wrestling team? She's a terrible wrestler. I'm not joking. So she's a 135-pound woman. She came to my son's wrestling team. We're a very good team. Like we're a good wrestling team. There's like 20 kids wrestling at Fargo, and they're legit. There's a lot of girls, a lot of females still competing in Fargo. I have high school girls in my team that would throw her on her head. Like she's a terrible. Aileen Perez was just locking up and throwing her.
Yeah, like just, and the funny thing is, even during her earlier UFC run, Evan Smith's wrestling was like mystifyingly bad for somebody that had her amateur background. But here, even that semblance of life was gone. Perez just bodied her. And yeah, I agree. Like there are probably a good number of solid female high school wrestlers in Evan Smith's general weight range that would have dumped her on her head.
Yeah, and the one positive about Ashley Evans Smith, I know they said that I don't know if she struggled with alcohol, but she said that she gave up drinking alcohol. I don't know if she struggled or just something she wanted to be healthier for camp, but if she did struggle and she gave it up, I give her a lot of credit for that. I know that's extremely tough. So obviously we'll stop joking for a second, and always good to improve your life in any way you can. So there you guys have it. We have covered all the fights. Let's get to the fun stuff. Do we have the awards, Ben?
We do have the awards. Actually, somebody posted them right in our chat, but I've got them. So well, everybody...
First of all, screw that person.
Yeah, everybody knows what they are. There is a fight of the night, and there are two performances of the night.
Okay.
So
I don't. Everyone even know. I don't know.
Yeah. So in the chat, throw out who you think should have won. I'll throw some of them up on the screen.
Fight of the night to me, I had it being Valdez and Elder, and I thought that was going to be super hard to beat, but I'm gonna have to go with Madalena, Jack Madalena, Della Madalena, and Hafez. To me, that's got to be the fight of the night. As far as performances, you sub Holly Holm. I hate giving it to the main event fighters, but Bueno Silva subbing Holly Holm. She's got to get one, and I'm probably gonna go Prado. I mean, just getting a stop. I mean, there's a couple like pillar to post ones, but getting a knockout, 21 years old. Those are who I would give it to. So Ben, who would you give it to?
I would give the fight of the night to Jack Della Maddalena versus Hafez. That's just, it was the only good fight of the night, really.
Okay.
Like, so I like that one. Performances.
Well, Valdez and Elder was sorry. Oh no, yeah, I guess you're saying Elder. There was fun exchange, but Elder really
it was entertaining for a one-sided fight, but there's no rewatch value there. I'm with you. Like normally, if I were literally handing out the bonuses for the UFC, I would always lean towards giving them to people for whom it is life-changing money. But Mayura Bueno Silva is pretty new to this echelon of the division. I'm sure 50K is life-changing money for her. Yeah. It is the most impressive win of her career in terms of who she beat, when, where, and how. I mean, just a cool technique that surprised her opponent and kind of surprised all of us. The other one, I like Prado, but I'm giving that one to our boy Jin Young Park. Yeah,
that's true. He got it. Yeah, that's. You want to read some of the listeners, and then you can announce the actual award.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't seem to be much disagreement for the fight of the night, but Melchizedek Costa for performance of the night, says John Butterfield.
That's a good one too.
Jin Young Park, Joe Black, Bueno and Prado. So there you go. Jack and Hafez fight of the night to reward Hafez. That's kind of an interesting take on it. So there,
it was the best fight on top of it. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah,
especially imagine this. Imagine you get called 5 days from now. Hey, go fight Jack Della Maddalena. You've been your dream to make UFC, but get an extra $50,000 on top of that. Well, that's pretty nice. Like, oh, I wasn't expecting to get $50,000 at the end of this week, plus whatever he gets paid just to fight.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of people that had rough debuts in the UFC, Melchizedek Costa, Bob Chimpson says he looked real slick out there, would give him performance of the night. We're talking about a guy that stepped up on short notice to fight Thiago Moises, which isn't quite as tall a task as Jack Della Maddalena, but still no fun.
It was up a weight class, though.
Ugh, yeah, there's that too. Yuck. Oh, that's rough, man. Your actual winners are fight of the night is Jack Della Maddalena versus Hafez. Your performances of the night, Mayra Bueno Silva for her second round submission of Holly Holm, and Francisco Prado for his first round knockout of Atman Azatar.
So the ones I actually had. Nice job, UFC. But the other ones like give the Turtles something.
Yeah.
You know, and all right, let's do you want to do cut list? What do you want to do? You want to do the Bulls and the Bears?
Let's do the cut list first.
All right, the cut list, you guys, if you don't know by now, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is when both me and Ben tells the UFC who they can get rid of. If both me and Ben have the same person on the cut list, we allow them to be cut. Ben, how many do you have for your cut list?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5.
Yeah, I think I stopped taking notes on the cut list for a second. Because I had so many. I lost first time I lost space. So Ben, I'll let you I'm glancing over real quick because I apologize and see if there's somebody else I want to cut. Okay, I'm gonna go with 4. So there's at least one person that's getting saved. Who's your first person?
Ashley Evans Smith has lost 3 in a row. She's lost 5 of 6, and the last time she really made headlines was for stealing COVID protection supplies off of someo's front door.
Which by the way, one, she hasn't won in over 5 years. Last time she won a fight, but stealing COVID supplies, weren't they giving them out for free, everywhere?
Yeah. I mean, that was at a point where stuff like masks were still in pretty short supply.
Okay, because I remember
dude, here's the thing, and I said this on the preview. Whether you thought COVID was like a serious major health crisis, or you thought it was overblown, or you thought it was a conspiracy, everyone could kind of agree that stealing supplies was kind of despicable. And especially in her case, I guarantee you she didn't use them. She was stealing them to see if she could sell them, which makes it even worse.
Is she stealing for what? To sell them?
Yeah, guarantee she was stealing them to try to sell them. She wasn't going to use them.
Are you saying people with tattoos and shaved heads are criminals? Is that what you just said, man?
I have tattoos. I have shaved my head at times in the past. I don't do it now because my head is too round. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with her looking like a reject from the old Suicide Girls porn website. Anyway, yeah, she's on my cut list. Is she on yours?
I knew a guy that was the tattoo artist for that group of girls.
Oh,
his job all day was give tattoos to naked girls. I don't know. I was like, damn.
I'm gonna kill my guidance counselor.
Yeah. I had actually Evan Smith on mine too. So goodbye. Who's your second person?
Genaro Valdez is 0-3 in the UFC, and at best he's been competitive in fits and starts.
He took. Yeah, I didn't have him on my list. I was gonna say he took such a beating that I was gonna save him because of how tough he was. But yeah, eventually you have to have skill too. So yeah, you convinced me. So I'll have 5. So Valdez can be cut too.
Okay, we might not have the rest of the way up the ladder. My next one, Austin Lingo. He's only lost 2 in a row, but he's 2-3 in the UFC. And his 2 win. I'm not saying his 2 wins were low level, but his best career win is still over Solo Hatley in LFA.
Yeah, no, I saved him, but yeah, so no, I didn't have him on my list.
Okay,
but yeah, he's really close.
Okay, that means you probably have one that I don't. I have Estela Nunes. She's 0-4 in the UFC. Yeah, nobody likes to cut someone based off like just a horrible freak injury, but this is more of a, are you really going to sign her another 4-fight deal?
Yeah, I get rid. Sorry, Estella. Be like Heartless and cut her right now and end her healthcare right now.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible of me. But what can you do? And
you have one more, right?
I do have one more. My other one was Otman Azaitar. He's lost 2 in a row. He had a nearly 2-year layoff for something stupid, and it's just looking more and more like there's smoke and there may be fire. He's just not the same guy. And he again, if you've heard any of our previews, and I say when fighters come from certain parts of the world and their success seems mostly based on physical superiority, I like to wait a little while. This is longer than I usually like to wait, but I'm comfortable cutting Otman Azaitar.
Azaitar wasn't on my list either.
Oh, what? Who are you cutting?
I saved Austin Lingo and Otman Azaitar. You saved Carl Deaton, who's 0-2 and it looked like absolute trash today. But you give him a third shot. And Tucker Lutz has lost 3 in a row. A little controversial this one, but I was getting rid of Tucker Lutz. So some of the people in the chat, Juice X was saying get rid of some that we didn't mention. He was getting rid of Tyson Nam, even though a lot of people thought Tyson Nam won. And Terrence McKinney, who they're talking about a change of route going from the next big thing in the division. I'm not saying Juice X is saying that, but a lot of people to trying to let him go to Bellator or something. Well, let's see, anybody else?
I mean, it's not as bad as it could have been. I made the argument on the preview that the first 7 fights of the night, there might be a case for cutting the loser. It was just a complete cutless derby. Dana White Saturday Night Contender Series meets, oh wow, they're still in the UFC, like that whole thing. Yeah, this was a rough undercard.
Yeah, this wasn't the best. But let's talk about the let's keep it negative, then we'll get some positive. The Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market reference. You want to be on the Bulls list, that's going up. You don't want to be on the Bears list, that's going down. We do it hockey style, 3, 2, 1 stars of the night. We'll keep it negative because then we got to bring some positive in this. Ben, you mind if I go first?
Please go for it.
I'm going to go with the guy you were just talking about. Back-to-back losses, 2 first-round KO losses for Otman Azaitar. His stock has gone down for a guy who, before the potato incident, he had some buzz. The guys that, a lot of the hardcores were excited to see. The Matt Frivola loss has aged pretty well. The Francisco Prado, that looks like it could age well too. So not the worst losses, but still not the guy that some people were really excited about. My number 2, it's got to be Holly Holm. She's 145 still a thing. She's not too far out from a title shot at 135, but still she's lost 2 out of her last 3. She's 42. She could have been the face of that division. I mean, she still is the face, but she was the one most likely to kind of keep the fans excited, after Nunes left. That's not the case. But number 1, another guy you just talked about, Terrence McKinney, went from the hot prospect to losing, 3 out of his last 4. Terrence McKinney's stock has plummeted. Ben, do you have any other Bears?
All I would add, because I had McKinney for sure on mine. I would add Albert Duraev. Duraev came into this fight. I mean, yeah, he wasn't favored, but it was pretty close on the odds, and people still seem generally high on his potential, and he did not look great. And I would also add Jack Della Maddalena. Taking a short notice opponent is almost a no-win situation, especially for a ranked or borderline ranked fighter. But just the fact that we were arguing over who should have won the fight, or people were talking about how badly Della Maddalena would have lost to his originally scheduled opponent, those aren't the things you want people to be saying about you after you appear in a co-main event. So it wasn't a loss, but it was definitely a moment that made a lot of us reevaluate our takes on Jack Della Maddalena.
Yeah, I dropped the ball on that one. That was a pretty obvious pick. I don't know what I was thinking, not having him in on my list. Yeah, good call on that one. Let's go to the Bulls. These are the ones who had a good night, whose stock went up. Ben, I'll let you kick it off first.
Okay. Good night for Melquizael Costa. It's a fight he was favored in, but he did what you're supposed to do. It was, as you called it, just pillar to post. Really put a beating on Austin Lingo to the point where by the end, all we could really talk about was Lingo's being too tough for his own good. Bulls gonna throw out. It's super obvious, but Mayura Bueno Silva, biggest win of her career, and cemented herself a possible title challenger in her next fight. And last one I will throw out there is Basil Hafez, the flip side of the Della Maddalena coin.
Absolutely.
Hafez didn't win, but he put on an interesting enough showing that if he can follow the Lando Venata route to greatness, again, Lando Venata has been in the UFC for like almost a decade now, going on 20 fights. I may be speaking prematurely here, but I don't think Lando Venata has ever been above 500 in the UFC, or at worst, he's never been more than one fight above 500 in the UFC. So he has cruised along on entertaining fights and won great moments against a great fighter for almost his entire professional career. Basil Hafez could do a lot worse than follow that track.
Okay, so you had Hafez, Silva, and who was the third one?
Hafez, Silva, and Costa.
Oh, Costa. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I totally agree with all of them. Obviously, I think Hafez was easy, no-brainer number one tonight, despite a loss. I'll throw one out that we don't do a lot. We talk about American Top Team a lot, and we talk about Mike Brown and different ones. A guy that we never talk about, and it's been 2 huge victories, great game plans in a row. Marcos Parumba Damata. He's the Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach there. One of like 10, but he's like the most. He trains with a lot of the Brazilian athletes. We saw him with Pantoja a week ago. We saw him tonight with Bueno Silva. Just kind of some guy I've been noticing a lot. I like the guy a lot. I've talked to him at shows. Great coach. Just something that doesn't get the recognition that a lot of the other coaches do. I think he should. And I'm not talking about American Time. I'm talking about all coaches.
Yeah.
Another Bull, my number 2. I'm gonna go Norma Dumont. I mean, like we talked about the turnaround in her career. She's won 6 out of 7, 3 in a row. She's the best 145-pound fighter in the UFC. I almost said in the world, but it's still Chris Cyborg out there. But
there's still Chris Cyborg out there. But you know what? Would you rather see Norma Dumont stick around the UFC or go fight someone like Cyborg or Larissa Pacheco? Like,
I don't want to see her get beat up by Chris Cyborg, or probably Larissa Pacheco too. But yeah, and my number 1. Just because you took a lot of the good ones, I don't have much left. I'm going to go with Jung Young Park. 4 wins in a row, 7 out of 8. We're talking about him fighting ranked opponents. Maybe even, I don't know if he'll get mentioned in the rankings at all for middleweight and Sherdog rankings or anything.
I've already brought him up. I put a pin in it, and I want to talk about Jung Young Park maybe making the top 15. So I'll take a closer look later. But yeah.
So there you go. Usually the rankings I think it comes out Tuesday morning. So keep your eye out for that. Ben is a big active member. A couple other guys in there. Tristan is the guy who always posts those. So we'll see if the listeners of the Shillan and Duffy show we can use our powers to get Jung Young Park ranked.
Yep.
All right, let's get to Dude Seriously. Ben, do you have any Dude Seriouslys?
Oh,
I have 4.
Why don't you go first? And if
Yeah.
I have any that you didn't mention,
I came out the gate hot with the dude seriously that I had to slow it down. I stopped taking notes on them because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have like 40 if I keep it by this pace. Aileen Perez, like, dude, seriously, like, you can do your twerk, just don't do it to like while a married man is trying to interview you. Like, poor DC was like, okay, smile, but like I'm uncomfortable and I got my wife's probably watching, so I can't get too excited. Like, just it was just a bad situation to put DC in. Like, dude, seriously. We already mentioned it. Ashley Evans Smith, oil checking. Dude, seriously. Oh shoot, who was it? Oh, Austin Lingo. Saif Sayud wasn't there, so you asked Uriah Hall to be your coach. Like, what is he going to teach you? How to underperform and not throw punches? Like, dude, seriously. And I got to go to Brendan Fitzgerald. I got to shout out Juice X, who said that the broadcast mentioned that Jack Della Maddalena was the biggest prospect or the biggest prospect in the welterweight division. That's what he said when he was coming out. But early in the night, he said something even more disrespectful. He said Jack Della Maddalena is the hottest prospect in the UFC. We all know that is bullshit, as of course the best prospect in the UFC is
Bo Nickel.
Mr. Bo Nickel. Come on.
I mean, unless he's saying that Nickel is already a contender, which I mean, you can make the case.
With the hands he has.
Yeah.
Like Izzy Adesanya, but watch out. Those hands are coming. Bo Nickel.
Man.
Yeah, okay. You have any dude seriously?
You know what? I don't think I have any to add to yours. Like Lingo is what I was going to bring up, but yeah, like you've taken all of mine. Like all my dudes seriously, they're gone.
And I'm wondering about all the people who got worried that I wasn't going to get a Bo Nickel reference in. All right, you're great for the card.
C-. It turned out more interesting than I expected. Had a freakish injury. We had a shock in the main event. Like, you can make a case that Bueno Silva was going to win, but not many people probably picked it to look like that. Learned some new things about several fighters, for better or for worse, in victory or defeat. That's good. So yeah, more interesting card than it promised to be on paper, and had sort of the maximum amount of divisional relevance. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that two people on this card will be fighting for titles in their next fight, which is a hell of a, like, that is way overachieving compared to the amount of divisional relevance this card seemed to have.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a C just for that. Like, on paper, I wasn't expecting to give us a lot to talk about, but here we are 2 hours in, and we talked a lot. So I'll give him that. There's some exciting moments. Not a lot of stoppages, finishes early on the prelims, so that kind of keeps down. But yeah, overall, timing of the morning wasn't the best. I wish it started a little early in the day, but I'll go C. Toughest question of the night always is, who is the listener of the night?
Man, plenty of people, lie. Like, this chat was popping for such a late card and such a low stakes card. Plenty of our regulars here. I know you hate this and you're going to call me chicken, but I'm going to call a tie. Marcus Mustard and Bob Chimpson have both been amusing me and giving me interesting insights all night. Much respect to everybody who stuck around till nearly 3:00 Eastern time for this one. Too many of you to name, but yeah, great night.
Bob Chimpson was someone who was coming hard. 30 West was another one, but a guy that hasn't won. I don't think he's won in a while, but I think he was strong all night. Had some funny things. Came in early, stayed the whole time. I'm gonna go with 1 foot out the door. I think 1 foot out the door was really strong. I like tonight. That. We haven't given him in a really long time, so at least I don't think he has. So there you guys have it. We have recapped all 13 fights. We believe this is the most in-depth recap show on the planet. What we know is the most in-depth preview show is the one that Ben usually does solo recently. But no, we'll be back. We'll be previewing UFC Vegas. No, UFC London. What am I talking about?
London.
UFC London. Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura. Really, really good card on paper. So we'll be previewing that. That'll be out Monday morning. We'll be back next week recapping everything. Is it? It's got to be a different time, right? What's the times next week?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't looked yet.
Yeah,
like I don't usually depend on that until kind of Tuesday or so.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. We'll figure out the what the schedule is and everything. But we'll if one of us aren't here, we'll have somebody else filling in. Maybe we'll get some guy we'll find some London chap to join in with us. So.
Yeah, or we'll drag in our Dublin chap, Sean Sheehan. We'll see.
There you go. So there you guys have it. Thank you so much for listening. See you guys next time.